Welcome to another insightful session on the 78th day of Brand India 100 Days to Leadership Transformation by CIMSME, Confederation of Indian Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. Namaste, I am Pravina Tota, State Chair Telangana CIMSME, and happy to be hosting session for Young Entrepreneur Samhita, Vice President W Combinator and CIMSME Telangana, who is in her 20s, established organization and proficient enough to enlighten women entrepreneurs on pain areas like compliance. And the topic starts now, start strong, women entrepreneurs, because starting is the point where they'll be lacking, they have a lot of doubts, and unknowingly they just venture into the entrepreneurship and then struggle a lot. So she has seen many organizations facing this problem, and she thought, that would be the right thing to make women entrepreneurs Atmanirbhar. That's what, as a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, maybe she thought, that she should enlighten on that topic. So thank you so much for that. And to talk about Samhita, Samhita is a multi-qualified finance professional and entrepreneur by passion. And she holds global qualifications and certifications such as CFE, CIA and CIMA, and has gained a multitude of experience working with global firms in the finance sector. Risk management, due diligence, and valuation are some areas that she specializes in. Samhita is the founder of director of Pro Squad, consulting firm with a dynamic client base spread across India. It supports economic growth of small-scale businesses by radically improving their functions, such as to gain more synergy and ultimately add more value to the industries that they operate in. And she is encouraging women and more women entrepreneurs to register their firms with a free Udyam Registration drive. This is also, I can say, as a part of Women Envision and CMSM in SAHAYOG. She is doing that as a 75th Independence Year, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. So we are celebrating and empowering women entrepreneurs and giving that the first step towards that. And she's also guest speaker at many colleges. To mention a few, KIT and Guru Nanak College, Sentence, and she has received awards like Excellence in Finance Services from Atal Innovation Center, Women in Business Award, Technology Business Incubator, and Spotlight Award from Bombay Business Chamber, and Brand India Women in Business Award from GCPIT. A warm welcome, Samhita. Pleasure to have you here. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation, Pravina ma'am. Introduction. Thank you. Thank you so much. So today's topic, as we can see, is basically Start Now, Start Strong, where we will discuss a little bit about how simply we can start a business legally. Because most people, because there are so many platforms nowadays to just start selling products or start giving services. However, after a couple of days or months of getting into the business, you realize that most of the money that you've earned may not be official, or you can't show it in the books of accounts. So how do we account for it, and how do we start legally, the sale or providing service of whatever it is that we've started? And that's going to be today's topic. It's going to be pretty brief and very straightforward because it is a very simple topic. And the idea behind this is to, of course, promote the spirit of entrepreneurship, as well as promote women empowerment at the grassroots level, because this not just applies to, say, professionals or people who have already been doing business for a while, but also people who are wanting to start but have the fear of getting into the business space for whatever reason, because everybody has some or the other backdraws. So we'll just get into it. I have a small presentation, so I'm just going to share that.
Yeah,
the screen is visible, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so that's today's topic. So a little bit about why Udyam registration is important for us is that the Ministry of MSME has now began actively looking into the growth of the small scale enterprises, which account for a very large revenue chunk in the overall economic growth of our country. So time and again, we see a lot of schemes that pop up that are relating to MSME sector. Time and again, we see a lot of subsidies and grants that are being formulated for the benefit of various entities spread across different industries. And so, but a lot of people lack the awareness itself. And most people think, starting a business just means starting, incorporating a company, which then comes under Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And that is a different ballgame altogether, where MSME is a different ballgame altogether. The purpose of MSME registration primarily is to simplify the initial stage of starting a business and getting into the groove of sales, purchases, and the basics of how you start your entity. So essentially, how we recognize an entity to be legally a business entity, whether you are a sole proprietorship, which is just started yesterday, or if you've been in business for, say, the last 1 decade, is that you will be given UAM, which is a unique number, which is basically like an Aadhaar card. Just like how individuals have Aadhaar number, your business also will have an Aadhaar number that will be allotted to you once you register yourself for it. And what happens then is that in the government's portal, everything that you do will get tracked in terms of, say, how you publish your annual accounts, whether you've applied for certain schemes, certain grants. They will then be able to track based on this particular number and trace it back to the kind of business that you're doing, whether you were doing it properly, ethically, correctly, and in case you need more assistance from the ministry itself. So the thing is that most people, the reason we're even having this session is also because most people lack the awareness and the to sort of reduce the fear of getting into business itself. So MSME sector has a very vast contribution towards the overall economic growth of India, and which contributes to more than 45%, especially the manufacturing sector. Service sector, of course, has an even higher chunk put together, because we are, as a country, mostly a very literate country, and we do well in the service sector as well. So there's something called as Udyugada Memorandum, which is basically the registration certificate that gets sent to the registered email after you kind of put in all the details and everything is verified at the back end from the Ministry of MSME. And what you receive after verification and after due diligence of the matter that's been sent in the application is what we call as Udyugada Memorandum, and is essentially the proof of your entity's commencement, or it is basically like a PAN card or a driver's license. It's basically a license to start your business legally. Of course, you would have done a lot more sales or some amount of services and gotten money for it. That can, of course, be accounted after you get the memorandum as well. So there's no hard and fast rule that you must get Udyugada before you start your sales or services itself. So Udyugada Memorandum is essentially just like a certificate of your entity's registration. So we'll now talk about different types of entities and whether they're eligible for the registration. And truth be told, all of the entities are eligible for registration under the Udyam registration, whether you're an individual with zero experience or you have a very large scale manufacturing entity with a lot of capital intensive work. The MSME itself stands for micro, small, and medium enterprise. So the ministry has included the 3 categories of enterprises and has divided them by way of annual turnover. And we can see here that most of the startups, if you are just starting out, would fall under the micro category, since their turnover would be less than 5 crores. And 5 crores and beyond would then fall into small and medium respectively. So like I mentioned before, pretty much anybody as part of any kind of business can get registered under the Udyam scheme, and this includes sole proprietorship, Hindu undivided family, an OPC, which is a one-person company, a private limited, public limited, partnership firm, LLP, cooperative societies, and association of persons. So pretty much you name anything, even if you're an individual, which is basically a sole proprietorship, you can still get yourself registered as MSME entity. So essentially, the process of MSME registration is pretty simple and very self-explanatory. Most people think that it would be time-taking or tedious and document-intensive. It's not. Most things that are being asked in the application also are pretty straightforward, and they don't need to be sort of rigid in terms of whatever you're saying, whether it's true or false, because it is for the growth of people starting out as business enterprises. So most of the details that are being asked also are very straightforward, like your Aadhaar card number for beginning with, to kind of see if you are compliant in the first place, and most of the other things are nothing but slightly easier things, like what are you going to do with your business, how much revenue are you expecting, those kind of things. And it's really not, you know, anything that is document intensive or authentication intensive. So there's absolutely nothing to fear about it, and, you know, get worried about the Udyam registration. Of course, there are a lot of benefits that fall into picture once you get registered, and which is why the ministry itself is promoting active registration of Udyam, primarily to do with subsidies and marketing promotion in those categories, because those are where most entities lack the expertise or lack the experience of. So certain benefits of Udyam registration, as we can see here, is that it can assist in getting certain bank loans without mortgage or collateral securities. Time and again, we see a lot of schemes pop up from the ministries, not just Ministry of MSME, but also other ministries which contribute towards industry-specific growth and industry-specific empowerment. And so it also provides, say, tax exemption in certain cases, and provides lower interest rates, gives a 50% grant in patent registration, and also other IPR related things such as trademark and other certain things. Reimbursement of ISO certification and easy procedure to obtain license and approvals. You'll also be able to get electricity at concessional rates if you're a manufacturing entity, and they would, of course, require you to submit certain documents regarding the capacity of the entity itself and how well it is being put to use. Certain other things such as subsidies, current account opening, barcode registration, octroi benefits, and other schemes that are being incentivized time and again, protection against delayed payments, and NSIC performance and credit ratings are being covered under the benefits. And we've also seen that over the last couple of years, the list of benefits has always increased rather than decreased. So it's always better to get yourself registered as Udyam entity now, if not late. Documents required for Udyam registration are very basic in nature, as we've discussed earlier. Primarily, you would require only the Aadhaar card and the PAN number. The bank account number could be your own savings account in case you don't have a current account already. A lot of people face an issue of opening a current account without, say, starting a business, because the banks itself require you to follow a certain protocol and ask you for a lot of documents. In case the current account is not available, the promoter of the company or the partner in a partnership firm who has the signing authority can give their own details for opening for the bank account number that they ask in the form. Total number of workers, you can obviously give an estimate. It's not a hard and fast rule that you tell them the exact number. And finally, what happens is you would get an OTP when you click on submit after you have given these details. You'll get an OTP. You have to authenticate the OTP in the form itself, and within 1 or 2 working days, you will also receive the UAM, the Udyugada Memorandum, and that's primarily how things will proceed. So it's very straightforward, very easy, and extremely quick. And the reason that most people get scared is whenever we see any kind of form, we psychologically get agitated, or we kind of resent to not fill it. But as you can see, these are pretty much the things that we require, and most things we know out of the mind, as in we don't even have to kind of refer to anything. Look at I think most people would know most of the things that are given here without having to memorize them. So as part of the CIMSME drive, what we have done is that along with Women in Vision and CIMSME, we've launched a free Udym registration drive as part of the 75th Independence Year. And our goal is to give out 100 registrations free of cost for women entrepreneurs to promote the spirit of entrepreneurship, and to also help them kickstart their business dreams or business journey. We have so far completed 35 registrations in Hyderabad itself, along with Women in Vision, Ms. Praveena ma'am's support, and other members of the council as well. And we've seen that a lot of women have also been extremely grateful for this kind of an initiative. Most people, of course, once they get into the groove, they start realizing that it's not that difficult. And as Praveena ma'am mentioned earlier, the first step is to start. And the most difficult step also happens to be to start. And we have basically, acted as the stepping stone to kickstart the business. And we're always here as part of CIMSME to kind of promote the spirit of MSME, the spirit of women entrepreneurship, especially in W Combinator. And it's what we're supposed to be doing. And this is a small part in what we have to contribute in terms of the Telangana Council. So that's as far as the presentation is concerned. So the overall message that I want to give is start now and start strong, because pretty much everything that we have covered in this short presentation is basically what we require to start and to get yourself Udyam registered. And the benefits that you're missing out on are huge. So it's always easier to do it. And of course, we're doing it free of cost right now, for this particular year. So if you have anybody, and please do share the link, the registration link, with the people that you know who are wanting to start a business, but they don't know where to, and things like that. So that's about it as far as the presentation is concerned. That's our address. You can come visit us in our office. And okay, I'll go back to Zoom. Hi. So that's as far as the presentation is concerned. I'm open to answer certain question and answers that you may have, and general discussion regarding Udyam registration or starting your business.
So Samita, thank you so much. And the one thing, having a current account. So you need to have at least minimum 25,000 something. That's where people just get stopped. And you're rightly, majority of them not aware that only with their personal account, the individual account also it can be done. So well mentioned about it. And so anyway, proprietorship firm you mentioned. So would you be mentioning a little about giving insights about partnership firm? because usually according to SDG 17, because now in GCPIT as a part of it, we are talking about more of SDGs, right? Sustainable Development Goals. I think the 17 speaks about more of partnerships, and as such, yeah, collaborations. So as such, we are like, wherever we go, we mention like, you always collaborate, work, someone must be having technical skills, someone has strategic skills, someone is like, good at marketing. So we always talk about it. But when we really look into a lot of things, women need to be careful, not just women, anyone, because we are catering to the women entrepreneurs especially. So they need to be more conscious. So you can give us more details about like, how the partnership, when they get into partnership firm, what kind of care need to be, all the things, probably you can throw a light on that.
Yes, ma'am. Like all forms of businesses, partnership is also, say, it's either as complex as you can make it or as simple as you can keep it. Because essentially, when it comes to partnership, it's the existence of partnership is detailed in a deed, in a partnership deed, and it's essentially a contract between the partners, whoever it is. So what you as a partner or anybody as a partner, when they're getting into a partnership, would ideally look at certain clauses, because it's an agreement or a contract. There are certain clauses that you should be more careful about when you are signing it, or before you say get started with it. I think number one would be clearing the terms and conditions of the profit and loss, who takes how much profit, the share of profit within the partners itself. What happens in case of resignation of a partner? How do we do it? In case of removal of partner, in case of death of a partner also. So these are certain things that say we might ignore, because when you are signing a partnership, you're mostly enthusiastic about starting the business itself, and you don't really think about what happens if things go south. So you would ideally want to look at clauses in terms of what I've mentioned before. You'll also have a lot dispute resolution clause in case there's a conflict between the partners in terms of the remuneration, in terms of share of profit, in terms of the roles and responsibilities, the segregation of duties that they have within themselves. Are they documented properly? Because partnership, again, like most other business forms, is also a form of give and take. Ideally, the partners who are involved would be contributing not just in terms of capital, but also in terms of promotion or business activities in their professional capacity and other things like that. So laying down clearly whose responsibility is what is very important, because when once you get started, sometimes you will have a lot of disputes regarding, oh, you didn't tell me this, or I wasn't aware I should do this, and things like that. So for easier resolution of disputes amongst the partner, there could be a clause, and you must include a clause regarding dispute resolution. So that's one of the things. And the other thing is withdrawal rights of the partners in case you want to resign before the tenure of the partnership. How do you do it, and whether you're allowed to do it? Sometimes you're required to sign partnerships for perpetual time, which most people are not comfortable with. In case you want to resign for whatsoever reason, you will be unable to. And if you still want to go ahead with it, most partnerships will require you to pay a certain amount of penalty for having resigned before the tenure or something like that. So the withdrawal clause is also very important, and things like that. And also, of course, the percentage of ownership is of primary importance, and how you resolve your capital issues, as in if everybody brings in 50-50, or say if there are two partners, if one person brings in 50, the other person brings in 50, do both of them have the share of profit to be 50 when one person is putting in more effort or putting in more contribution in terms of taking the business forward, and say the other person who's also given 50% is not taking that much of initiative and is not really contributing towards the overall business development. So these things, of course, also matter in terms of uh, share of profit. One, I think, major issue that a lot of partnerships face is most people who sign a partnership deed get confused and think that once you put in a certain amount of capital, they're also entitled to that amount of profit at the end of the year, when normally that's not the case. You could be putting in 50% of the capital, but if you have a share of profit of only 30%, that's how much you will be deriving out of the partnership at the end of the year. So those things must be clearly laid out, and most times they are not laid out in the partnership deed, and most people just jump towards signing it as long as they see the basics like the capital contribution, who are the partners, etc., etc. And all of the other clauses are very basic in nature. Where is the judicial authority? How do we resolve disputes and things like that? But most things that people have conflicts within the partnership is, of course, amongst the partners itself. And once you have a clear-cut protocol or a memorandum in terms of how you're going to operate when a conflict arises, then things become more easier and things become more transparent. There will be no, there will be no conflict amongst the partners, because you know exactly what to do because of the deed, because it is being put out on the deed. Otherwise, if it's not on the deed, then you kind of sit down and break your head about how we do what. And so I think those are certain things that you should keep in mind.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Samita. That is really a brief information about that. But I have few more doubts. So while laying the writing, I mean, like making the deed itself, definitely will be from a CA, the professional. So do they, is there anything like definitely these clauses should be mentioned? Any pro forma kind of a thing, like where sometimes, as you mentioned, initially they may not mention the clause at all or something like that.
Right.
So is there any kind of pro forma saying that definitely these clauses should be maintained, discussed, and they have to read out or sign while signing itself, or something like that? Or whose responsibility lies with that?
Essentially what happens, ma'am, is, of course, there's pro forma for partnership deed. Essentially is an agreement or a contract insofar as enforceability is concerned. You will basically get it signed on a bond paper, which is why, or notarized, in other words. Yes. So the clauses that are being mentioned is at the sole discretion of the partners. So of course, there's a lot of different types of professionals. So if a CA is concerned and is proactive in, say, getting the deed properly done, then they will, of course, give you more inputs regarding it. Probably they'll say, okay, you put in this also, put in this clause also. Otherwise, there are about 25 very important clauses that should form part of the deed itself. Like the name, what the name is, as in what you're going to operate under, the brand name of the partnership. Then there's other things like, for example, there's damages, withdrawal, authority, who opens the bank account, who has the signing authority over the checks, those things. You can, of course, find these things on Google as well once you kind of, Google contents of a partnership. But doing a thorough research is at the sole discretion of the partners, because at the end of the day, if there is anybody who suffers, it's the partners, and the CA who is signed it, or the notary who has notarized it, they really don't have any say in how your conflict is going to get resolved. So essentially, a partnership deed will have basic clauses. The pro forma is available in all of the state government's portals. It's called Me Seva. In Telangana also we have it. In certain states, the partnership deed registration itself has been automated. It's now, everything is online. You basically fill out something, you scan it, you upload it, and everything happens at the processing happens back end. Another very important point is that a partnership deed, it's not compulsory to get it registered itself. But however, why it's important to get it registered is in case of disputes, it is enforceable. That's why it's important to get it registered. And the registration happens and is different from each state to state in India. So in Telangana, what happens is that you kind of fill out a pro forma, a partnership deed. You can go to their website. You can go to the Telangana MeSeva website and download the pro forma there. If you want to add certain clauses, you can, because at the end of the day, the clauses are very flexible. You are free to kind of put in whatever clause you want to, because there is no hard and fast rule that you have to adhere to this. At the end of the day, your partnership moves in the way that you want it to move. So that's that. So every state has it. You can download that from the respective state websites for eSeva or MeSeva.
Okay, so the basic one, anyway, we can take it, and definitely I think so. CA plays an important role, because initially, definitely, as you rightly mentioned, the enthusiasm, we are just getting to the entrepreneurship, and we have to roll out. So we'll be least bothered, and at the moment, the trust always there. But trust always builds in. So we'll not even think what is next. We will not even give a thought. Like the thought itself will not get into our minds. So we'll be rushing with that. So maybe a CA plays important role there. Probably instead of thinking like some CA, let's get it to be done. We have to be very cautious. Who will be doing the proper way. Because they put everything into, they'll be proactively, as you mentioned, proactively doesn't even put this clause as well. Especially women entrepreneurs, I would suggest that, because it shouldn't be the case. Probably maybe next session or something, we can go case studies as well. So where because Samita might have seen many organizations, not only women entrepreneurs, I think so, even with the men or anyone, the partnership firms, the way we are promoting them to get collaborated, the similar way, I think so, many disastrous things, because the person they trust themselves may cheat. So you should be very cautious, and whatever is mentioned there, they need to read and sign. Instead of just, nick of the moment and just, the deed is there, just make an autograph on that. That shouldn't be a case. Yeah, I agree with you. So now the floor is open for questions. Anyone can unmute yourself and ask a question to Samita.
Yeah, regarding one PAN card.
Sir.
Yeah, as a proprietary concern, I would like to have a PAN card on my proprietary concern.
Okay, sir. You can, sir.
Yeah,
but number one. Yes, sir. Please continue.
When we look into that that government website, which is giving the details of entries, their proprietary concern information is not there. Simply, they are recommending to go for the personal PAN card number.
Right, sir. So the reason for that is that when you have a proprietorship, the sole proprietorship essentially means one person is handling the business. Yeah. So whatever money you make as a sole individual will be counted as your business income. And even on income tax returns, when you file, you will show business income, and you will show that as a separate head. So for you, essentially your business's PAN card and your PAN card is virtually the same. In case you want to apply for a new PAN card, you have to change the form of business, because in India, we don't separate a sole proprietor from the business that they run for tax purposes, in order to sort of say that XYZ Messrs XYZ Limited is not limited, Messrs XYZ, a proprietary concern, is being run by Mr. XYZ. The money that Messrs XYZ is making is purely attributable to Mr. XYZ. Therefore, there is no separate PAN that the government wants to give, because they want to club the income of that particular proprietorship to the person who runs the business itself. So that's the reason.
Multiple businesses. I would like to keep accounts for the different businesses. So in that case,
so you can open a current account insofar as every different business is concerned, right? If you have, say, a manufacturing proprietorship, you have computers, say computer center proprietorship or a software proprietorship, you can have separate bank accounts for them. But at the end of the day, when it comes to return filing or income tax payment, all of the sole proprietorships will still be clubbed under your name, or of course, I mean your family. You can divide it with your family members. It's called setting of income, but that goes into tax planning. That's a completely different topic. But in essence, you can have different accounts, how many ever you want to, current accounts, but you can't have separate PANs for all of those proprietorships. As long as they're proprietorships, you'll have only one PAN card, which is yours. That's the idea. So if you want PAN card for each of the business, you might consider changing the form of business into, say, LLP or a one-person company. Since you're a sole proprietorship, there's something called as one-person company, which is also a form of private limited entity, but it's run by one person. So you can consider changing into that. If you want a separate PAN number, if you want a separate GST for each of these businesses.
Okay, being a proprietor, we can have only one PAN card.
Correct.
And at the same time, can we maintain one GST for all other businesses?
If you have separate Udyam registrations, or if you have separate registration IDs for each of the business, then you will require to get registered, to get a separate GST registration number. In case you are mixing all of them up into one, then one is enough. That's how it works, because GST again is a separate topic. And here what happens is that you have a 20 lakh limit. If you cross that limit, that's when you're liable to get GST. Most people, what they do in terms of, say, do a little bit of planning, and strategically what they do is they'll have, say, 5 different verticals and 5 different proprietorships, and they will operate them separately, so that overall what happens is that you're not reaching the 20 lakh mark. So at the end of the year, you're not liable to get GST registered itself. So that's how, say suppose your turnover could be 19 lakhs separately. You're not anyways eligible to, required to get GST registered. In case you have all of them clubbed under one proprietorship, all of the activities that you do under one proprietorship, it is far easier to reach the 20 lakh limit. And so you will automatically be required to get the GST registration. So it depends on how you kind of want to space things out. Most people, for the purpose of not wanting to get GST registered or not wanting to pay GST, they will do this. They will divide their businesses into different entities and make sure that the turnover doesn't cross 20 lakhs in order to be safe from registration of GST.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
That's great, Samita, because the last one you said, right, like, GSTs, different GSTs, to avoid paying, like, maybe, that really, that's a game played by many, I guess. Yeah. And maybe, so as we got into the GST topic, the last time also you have mentioned, like, majority of them land up in having GST, which is not required actually. The initial, it's like, they have like, set of things. Have Udyam registration, then have GST, and then this. So list of things, I think, whether they're required or not, they just jump into usually.
Right.
So probably, the louder message from you is like, not really required.
Yeah, that's I mean, if you are just starting out as a startup or any other, whether you're into services, manufacturing, or anything, most likely that you're not required to get GST unless you fall in a very specific list of services or manufacturing entities, in which case you will be compulsorily required to get GST registration from the very beginning. But more often than not, you're not required to get GST registered. And a lot of people, fall they just assume that if you're starting a business, you have to get GST, but that's not the case. And I, as part of, say, my professional ethics, I've always told the client that if it's not required, don't do it. When the time comes, you do it. Of course, you have the forward, vision of reaching higher turnovers, but if you've not reached it now, then don't think about it. So always think about compliances. We have to be compliant. We have to be proactive in being compliant of under any statutory obligation that we have as business owners. But unnecessary compliances, of course, lead to more stress. They lead to more, penalties at a later point in time, which can be avoided at the initial stage. So at the initial stage, you don't require too much to start with, and the only and the easiest way to start is Udyam registration, which is what we've discussed today. All other things are secondary, and they can be complied with at a later point in time. So, and in case you do reach a 20 lakh turnover, or in case you are required to get registered, the government will call you, like they will trace you and they'll call you. They'll say, hey, you have to get yourself registered. So a notice will be sent. It's great that people want to be proactive. I know a lot of people who don't have too much of revenue, but are still wanting to get themselves registered for GST, for other statutes, which is great. But at the end of the day, there's also a threat. There's also a risk of being non-compliant, because sometimes you're so immersed in your business, your day-to-day operations, you tend to forget filing a zero return, filing a nil return, things like that. So but at the end of the day, if you have a nil return for certain amount of time, you are liable to pay penalty, even if you've not made any business in that particular month. So one thing that I advise most people is that check if you're actually required to get yourself registered for anything, not just GST, but any compliance, any statutory obligation that you might have. It's as finance professionals or compliance professionals, most lawyers, it's their bread and butter to comply with these things, and so they will ask most clients, get this, get that. But I think business owners itself must be somewhat aware on a broader level about certain things. They might not want to get too much detail, but on a broad level, you should kind of be aware and get yourself equipped with certain ABCs of compliance, like GST, income tax, MCA regulations in case you're a private limited entity, things like that. So at the end of the day, it's about being proactive about your own business, and how much you want to sort of take the risk of not complying or complying too much.
So another thing is, so as you rightly said, a penalty. Yeah. So more than even for nil returns, if you won't do on time, definitely the penalty gets piled up. So what my doubt is, like, if they feel that GST is not required at that juncture, so can they just what do they do? Like, once they say, for now Samvita told, and whosoever is felt like already they have GST, but they don't want to continue with that. So how do they? Is it good to close it, or they can I don't know, suspect, like they next after 1 year they want to use it, so they have a new one. What would be the right decision?
If you are very sure that you will not anytime in the future, in the foreseeable future, say the next 1 or 2 financial years, reach the turnover limit, it's safer to get it cancelled. There's, of course, the regulations say that in case an entity has failed to file returns for 3 continuous months, the department itself will suspend your GST registration number. However, that will attract penalty, as you've rightly mentioned. So it's voluntarily better to kind of get it cancelled, saying that I'm not making enough money and I don't want to get GST registration anymore. So in that case, you can just sort of write to the department. And right now the GST portal is quite efficient in terms of getting your GST registration cancelled, looking at your penalty, and everything is based on you can see everything on the dashboard of your GST portal. So you can apply for cancellation suo moto, and suo moto means voluntarily, and wait for it to get cancelled. And that's the easiest way to kind of stay away from that aspect for some time after having jumped into that lake. So that's one thing. The other thing is, once the government, the department itself sees that you've not been complying, sees that you've not been complying with the GST returns, they will suo moto cancel from their end your registration number, but they will give you a certain time, like a year's time, to sort of comply with it, or ask you why you're not complying. So you can reply to them saying that I don't want to comply, so you can cancel it. So things like that can happen, but communication is key. Just like any relationship you have with anybody, it's always better to kind of tell the department that you're not in a position to comply, or that you don't see a point in complying. Things like that. You can, of course, if you're not able to do it yourself, you can get in touch with the professional who got you the registration in the first place. You can ask them also to sort of do the cancellation proceedings.
Okay, yeah, that's nice actually. Maybe at least they put for further steps, because they might be sure that in the next at least one financial year, if they're unable to, there's no point in lagging. And where one other thing is, like, not, it's very simple to file nil returns on their own, but still
Right.
they need to so if they learn to do it, that's fine. Otherwise they need to spend at least some amount of money and get it to be done. So
True.
that's what they just think, oh my god, we cannot do this, and they just see, neither they do it or not, they just leave it. That's where the problem arises. And another thing I had a doubt is, if someone, some GST, something happened, like they could not pay the penalty. What about the firm? They've registered, but they're not making good profits, right? So anyway, they have the personal account where if anything, any transaction happens, anyway it reflects over there. So will there be any implication from government saying that because since this 1 year, 2 year, you didn't do anything? So do they cancel the registration, something like that, with their registration?
This is not exactly. In case you're not filing returns and you're not making enough profits, they will consider you as a dormant entity from their end. It depends again, ma'am, because GST is a zonal thing. There's state GST, there's central GST, and that's why in an invoice also, once you take a registration, you have to show the breakup of 50-50. So essentially what happens is that registration and cancellation, all of that is done by the state jurisdiction. So in case you belong to a certain area, you will be assigned a certain circle or a certain zone that you fall under. In case you have certain issues, or you want to sort of get help from the GST department itself, instead of, say, talking to a professional, talking to a CA and stuff like that, you can call them and tell them that this is the case. What do you suggest? They will tell you what to do. That is fine. They will also be in a position to waive off any penalty that they've applied so far to your entity for non-compliance of returns, or non-payment of GST, or any of those things. So again, this is basically just starting. This goes back to communicating with the relevant person. So cancellation, yes, ma'am.
So I meant to say, like, leaving GST apart. So just an organization which is sole proprietorship is existing, and they're neither making profits nor nothing, no transaction is going on in their account with that. In that case, how many financial years, or how do they treat? That's what they think, if it is not filing returns for 2 years, 2 financial years, will they consider it as a dormant one, or what actions they would be taking?
They will consider you to be non-compliant for 2 years. Now what happens is that once you apply for cancellation after those 2 years, your registration gets cancelled. So for what you will treat in your books of accounts or in your internal management of the company, business, is that you will treat as if for the 2 years you didn't have a GST obligation. And that's what the department would also consider. They would consider that you didn't comply because you were not registered in the first place, because that is the effect that cancellation has. In case in those 2 years, if you've ever paid GST, even if it's for 1 rupee, then they will consider it to be a non-compliant entity. If you've not paid any GST for those 2 years at all, even if it's a single rupee, then they will consider it to be a non-GST entity. So it depends on whether you've paid anything to the government or not in those 2 years that you've spoken about.
Thank you so much, Samita. So, the detailed things, like, it looks simple, but, you look into, they look like, big question mark, like, how and what. Thank you so much. Any others have questions can unmute and ask Samita questions.
Yeah,
Hi,
this is
sorry, go on, please.
Yeah, so long back, if we have some GST number, so
Yes,
that is more popular and printed on books and all these things. As
Right.
per your statement, after 2 years, that will be invalid or cancelled or something is gone. So the person, he would like to have the same number after 2 years or after 4 years, whatever may be period. So will he get it? Or
No.
he has to forcibly go to the new number?
You have to I mean, compulsorily, when a GST number is allotted to you, sir, they will essentially if you've applied for cancellation, or if they've themselves cancelled the old registered GST number, it's gone forever. You can't ever go back to it. It's not like a phone number where you kind of go back and forth. So once it's gone forever. And there is no option to choose the numbers as well. It's allotted at random in sequence that the application gets processed by the department. So we don't have a choice. Nobody has a choice.
Yeah, Manit, you can go ahead.
Hi, Samita.
Hi.
Firstly, thank you very much. Quite an informative session, even though I do kind of seek advice from my CA.
Right.
But I mean, there is a certain stress on certain subjects that you, from a very objective point of view, have shared, and that was very helpful. In fact, the couple of doubts that I did have earlier, as a new entrepreneur who's setting up his startup business, and you without me asking, you would already answered. So I just wanted to kind of say that, and thank you very much for that.
No, I'm glad.
Given that we are a part of the same group, if there are any further questions that come in my mind, I will surely text you and seek your advice on that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Manit.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Yeah, Varsha, you joined in now. You have any queries? Varsha Kumar, right? So if there are no questions, probably we are at the end of, and let me talk about another initiative which is going on upcoming in the October, and happy to share about that expo which is coming up in October, and it is Celebration Makers in association with MSME Telangana is proud to present Grand Wellness Expo. It's happening for second time, the season 2, and it's happening in Expo Galleria, Panjagutta Metro, and yeah, it is supported by Women Envision as well, and the special focus will be on eco-friendly products. So we invite all participants from wellness and related sector to exhibit and sell their products. And you can reach us at ps@cimsme.in. And happy to share one more thing. Samhita, initially what she mentioned about 75th Independence Year Udyam Registration Drive. So probably, we'll keep one stall over there. You can just give us the details there, then later, we can get connect with you. And of course, further processing can be done. So our stall will be available there as well for 3 days. So you can always reach us out. That's one gift from Samita, I guess I can say. Seriously, because majority of them entrepreneurs, I'm pretty sure, though they might be having many products developed and exhibiting, I doubt they have a registration has been done, and the whatever the schemes benefits you have mentioned, they are availing it, because all the benefits goes in a way. In the moment we talk about, then they realize the importance of registration. Since it's happening free, please avail that, and you can reach us out there. And Thomas G, you're there. We are missing your question actually. Yeah, Thomas G, can you hear us? I think so. So he's in drive or something. I'm not sure. So meanwhile, any other things you want to share, you can share, Samita. I'll try anything you would like
as you've mentioned, for at least for people who are in Hyderabad, we will of course start actively promoting the event that's coming up, and that we will be there, me especially will be there to resolve any queries regarding starting a business or taking the business forward, compliances, finances, accounting, and other aspects that you might have in terms of operating the business itself. And bring, I think, because the entry is free, you can bring in as many people as you want to. And I think the final word that I have to say is that take the leap of faith and start the business, and also share that particular that particular inspiration towards people in your community, and within your family even, because anybody can do anything, and as long as they have enough motivation and support from people around them. So that's what we are here for. The council is here for, in order to promote the different kinds of businesses, different kinds of people that are prevalent across the state. So yeah, thanks a lot for giving me this platform to share my thoughts. Whatsoever, if I don't know if I was helpful, but I'm thankful that I got this platform to speak. So thanks a lot, Praveena ma'am. Thanks a lot, Job sir, for hosting me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samita. It will be an insightful session, and you're extending. I'm very happy. It is a tender age, young age. You're not only thinking of your establishment, you're talking about the women. How do they empower them? How do you make them to bring in onto the entrepreneurship? That's really a great idea. Thank you so much. And yeah, definitely, probably, whoever want to get connected with you, connect with you on your contact details you have mentioned out Pro Squad, or definitely you can meet her in our expo that is happening in October 1st and 2nd and 3rd. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Good night.